Hey there, and welcome back to Sea Power. Welcome back to the second mission of the Invisible Hand chain. In this mission, we're tasked with sinking the aircraft carrier HMS Invincible. And the last time around I tried it, I got fairly close, and then had this submarine, the K493, get destroyed by a couple of Mark 46 airdropped torpedoes, courtesy of a P3 Orion. Now that I have a slightly better idea of what we're facing, I might need to change my plan. Because the way that I did it last time was basically try and sneak up to the carrier, which, at least in my understanding, is what submarines are supposed to do, and then make sure that you drop a couple of torpedoes on them. The problem that I have is that this submarine here, this Alpha, is loud. It is really loud. The game doesn't exactly tell you, but this thing might be the fastest production submarine ever made, but it's also extremely noisy. They're extremely noisy at high speeds, but quiet at slower speeds. And yet they detected me fairly easily last time around. So the other option that I have is the Charlie 2. It's an improved Charlie. It's been lengthened in order to accommodate more capable SSN-9 sirens. And these things last time around were able to sink at least one escort. So I might be able to do that again. And, well, there are a few merchants around. I'm just not really sure how to use them. Because they're all doing such speeds at 18 knots, 11 knots, they're making it difficult to sort of tag onto them and stay close to them and use them as a sort of noise barrier. That's what I would normally try and do, just tag along with a merchant. I might be able to try and use this one, but they're doing 18 knots. If I'm going to try and keep up with that, I'm going to be noisy, which is exactly what I do not want. Something at least I do know is that the aircraft carrier is going to be doing something like that, and then trying to get to the safe harbor. If I'm going to get there as well, that's going to take me a lot of time at my current speed. So let's say I want to intercept them slightly closer. I could try and tag onto this one, but unfortunately this guy's doing 6 knots. So yeah, that's not really going to help me anyway. I'm going to use the missiles on this submarine just because I'm able to do so. And otherwise they're going to be wasted anyway. Let's go full speed on both subs for now. I want to at least start heading east and start picking up my targets. Decided to take a little snoop with my periscope and immediately find a helicopter only 10 miles away. So that's a bit of a problem. Lower scope. Especially since this other submarine is still doing 20 knots. If this thing is tossing sonobuoys, which it can, if I'm not mistaken, those are sonobuoys, this is going to be a bit of a problem. No, actually, these are the sonobuoys, I think. They got 12. This is going to be a bit of a problem, because they're patrolling this area. So they're definitely able to not only try and get sonobuoys into position and detect me from afar, but potentially fly over me and use their MAD detection. Or rather, their MAD in order to detect me. Let's raise the ESM quickly. Snoop out some radar. Nobody's using radar. Okay, I should have marked those things. Scope up. 1. And 2. Okay, lower scope. They're currently on a course of 218 at an altitude which is too high to drop sonobuoys. Course 218. And the other guy, I think, was heading away from me, but I'm not 100%. What are we gonna do now? I still haven't detected the aircraft carrier, and my submarines are slightly too close together. So, let's change course with the 493. Because if I am able to outrun a Mark 46 with this sub, and the other one promptly catches it, that would still not be a great outcome. Let's put it that way. So, I guess for now, we're just gonna wait. And I might need to put the ship onto all stop. And just make her as quiet as I can. I'm not sure if that will actually be the quietest that that this sub can be, because it is a nuclear propulsion sub, so it's going to have its reactor pumps running at all times. It's just that sometimes it seems that at 0 knots, so full stop, they're even quieter. I am eager to get the periscope back up. Just quickly. Let's see where that helo's going. Oh boy, now there's 3 of them. One's heading towards me. Ish. One's still heading away, and the other one's heading north. Okay, down scope. Go deep. Insofar as there is such a thing. This is more of a psychological response rather than something that'll probably help me. As far as I know, they're not able to visually detect me. Are you really? Okay, they're at least going to stop at 350. They're trying to go to 730, but of course we can't do that. It's not deep enough here. So this is what we'll have to use. This is more of a psychological effect that I'm trying to distance myself from the surface. And as such, try to distance myself from those helicopters. But, of course, those torpedoes and sonobuoys aboard those helicopters are not going to care one bit. Distance between the 2 subs is now 10 miles. I might make use of these guys, but they're doing 15 knots. So, you know, they're a bit too fast. If I start pushing 15 knots, I'm probably going to get detected. Course 072. So they're more or less on that track, and these are 2 neutral contacts. I've seen them before. That's a neutral. Oh, hold on. That is apparently not a neutral. It has to be a hostile warship. I just don't exactly know what type yet. Range, 35 miles. The 458 can go on the offensive with the sirens, but with 3 helicopters buzzing overhead, I'm not feeling very confident that I'll keep that submarine safe. If, by some miracle, the 458 gets her missiles away, and then the helicopters fly in, they're going to drop sonobuoys around them, and promptly spot the 493. So, as much as I'd like to send missiles, I don't think it's going to be a good idea. We now have positive identification on Invincible. She's 30 miles out, and those still are those 2 merchants in the way, so I might be able to use those to have them sort of sail over me, and then throw torpedoes at Invincible. But the problem that I see is that my torpedoes are wake homers, so they need to pass the wake first, and then try and attract to the wake. So, launching them bow on, that won't work. I don't have the right torpedoes for that. As for launching missiles, maybe. What I have seen last time around is that Invincible is rather capable, especially with her escorts, at shooting those missiles down. I think only 1 or 2 actually made it through, and they did promptly sink an escort. But I think they also attracted the vengeance of the helicopters. So, in that case, not great. My window for launching missiles is still sizable. Tricky mission, this one. I'm not really sure what to do. Now starting to get identifications, or at least detections, on some of those escorts. We have these guys on the passive from the 493, and you can see they're escorted by 3 ships. Much like last time, of course. So these are all hostile. And the British self-defense capability against missiles isn't great, but it's enough. What I've done now is tell 493 just to go all stop. They're just positioning themselves pretty much in the path of this aircraft carrier. I might need to make a slight adjustment, because the carrier, the Invincible, is doing a course of 040, so they're going to be slightly outside. If I want to reposition, I'm going to have to do that now. In the meanwhile, the 458 is continuing east to try and get at least some distance away from the 493. And maybe I can still use these as a sort of distraction when I launch missiles, but it's a very far-fetched plan. Because, of course, the British are going to go, huh? Civilian ships don't launch missiles. So there has to be something else out there. But maybe as the 458 is then attracting the wrath of the helicopters, the 493 can blast that aircraft carrier to small bits with her torpedoes. It's a lot of ifs and buts. It's not a great plan, but I don't really have any better at the moment. As I'm observing what these surface ships are doing, it's almost as if they're doing a sprint and drift. HMS Budasea over here, with a towed array, I should add. Or rather, is that a towed array or a decoy? That's a towed array. Lovely. With that towed array, she is definitely a threat, but she's running 24 knots. What I saw her do was run, and then stop, and go to about 6 knots. And then now she's doing her sprint leg again. Type 21 over here, HMS Active. Taking the front position in front of the carrier, only 0.8 miles. And then we got the Type 42, which is also trying to race up to her position at 22 knots. While Invincible is maintaining her 17. So her escorts are really looking for things to kill. And at present, I'm not eager to give them anything to kill. What I have done is put 458 to periscope depth, so if I want to, I can start launching missiles at any second. And what I've found with the periscope is that there's a helicopter about here. About 8 miles away. So that's a threat. As of right now, I'm only picking these ships up on sonar. I'm not picking them up on their active sonar, so I'm not banging away with sonar, which is helpful. That might make my survival a bit more likely. What I intend to do here is prepare and just wait for these things to approach to about 5 miles, so that's that range circle. Then launch torpedoes at them and then potentially go underneath them. Which is where it's going to be really loud and noisy because all of these things are making lots and lots of noise. Especially as they're going to start to run away from torpedoes. The helicopters and or P3 might come into play. But I first want to see if I can find that P3. So let's raise the ESM. Nothing. That's confusing. No, not the radar. Periscope up. Oh god, we're using active radar. Oh no. That might have gotten me detected right there. Misclick. We also have a nice fan behind the scope. The helicopter is gone. At least we don't exactly know where it is, so this thing, I don't know, let's push it out slightly farther north. I really hope this plan's going to work. Ideally, they're in range. I mean, we got a range of 10 miles, but I'm keeping a hefty margin to make sure that we still have a bunch of range to keep up with these surface ships. Because they are probably going to run away a bit faster, like, what, 30 knots? 28 knots is their top speed. So maybe giving them 5 miles. My torpedoes run at 45. I should have plenty of range to catch up. It's just that I'm not that well versed in the wakehomers. I don't like them. I much prefer the Mark 48s that the Americans have. It's, as far as I'm concerned, a much more reliable torpedo because you can still guide it. And it's using its own passive and or active sonar head, as opposed to looking for a wake, which I imagine can be distracted by some other platform. What? That Type 42 is not on top of me. The Type 42 is over there. It's probably behind the Type 22 now, so that's why we can't exactly spot it anymore. Come on. Get closer. Also, if this Type 42 were on top of me, it would not be in its best interest. This thing is much more akin to an air defense platform. Fleet air defense destroyer. So it has absolutely no business trying to hunt submarines. The helicopter, however, that's an entirely different prospect. That helicopter can be deadly. Type 22 running 24 knots. You can see their radar is active. Type 21 also has their radar active. And you don't have your radar active. I guess you don't need to. Range 5-7. Remember, the Type 21 and the Type 22 are not the target. The carrier is the target. We're going to let them close in and pretty much pass us by and then engage. The plot thickens as the Type 22, which is definitely their most capable ASW platform, it's an ASW frigate, is slowing down to 6 knots. They're actively listening for submarines. This is their drift leg. If that towed array picks me up, or that bow-mounted sonar array, I'm probably done for. This is gonna get real close. Please continue on your sprint leg. I don't like you listening for me. Not at 5 miles. Not with a submarine that I don't know how noisy it is. Nor do I know how to show that, because I'm not sure if there is anything like that. I mean, contact range circles never really meant anything to me. So, I don't know at what range I will get detected. There's the carrier again. The Type 22 was getting in the way of detecting the aircraft carrier. And that Type 42, I guess, is there. Range 5.45. Go on. I can still go to 20 times speed, which is good, because it means there's no torpedo in the water. Or any other type of missile. Because then the game only slows to 10 times speed. Okay. I think we're close enough. Now, how many weapons do I want to dedicate to this aircraft carrier? I gotta wait for this guy to speed up. If he's doing 6 knots, he will most definitely detect a torpedo launch. At 17 knots and 22 knots, that's an entirely different story. So this Type 22 has to piss off and not ruin the day here. Come on. Take your time to listen. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. 4.5 miles out. At some point it's going to be out of position relative to the carrier and speeding up. Carrier, less than 5 miles away. There you go, he's just sped up. He's doing 19, 22 knots. Send it. 1 against the carrier, 2 against the carrier, 3 against the carrier, 1 against the Type 22. And to keep 2 torpedoes in reserve. Now, this can get backtraced, but at the moment, I'm not terribly worried about that. I'm just hoping that at this point, they're not going to do much. Because the moment that I start moving, I'm probably going to get detected. This one is now doing 6 knots. That's a problem. Although the carrier could be shielding it with all of its noise. Maybe. Type 21. Still doing 17 knots. The Type 22 is doing 24 knots. Yeah, Invincible properly identified. She's still at 17 knots. That means she has not detected the torps yet. Torpedoes. 3 miles out. Wake homing torpedoes. Look for a wake and follow it back to the ship that it came from. That's essentially my understanding of these torpedoes. Here's the other guy, still doing 6 knots. Torpedoes, 2.5 mile range. This is going to get really exciting. 2-2. 2-0. The torpedo against the Type 22 is only at a mile and change, 1.2. This guy is capable of doing 13 knots, so he won't be able to outrun the torpedo, but he might be able to outsmart it. At this point, the torpedo is 0.8 out. They still don't have a clue? That's interesting. At this point, I would think they'd detect the torpedo. It's not particularly quiet, coming in at 45 knots. There's a big wake on the surface as well, by the looks of it. There. Udesea just dropped a noisemaker. They're aware of the torpedoes. There's the noisemaker. I don't think a noisemaker is going to distract this thing, but I'm not sure. A noisemaker doesn't generate a wake. A ship does. There's the ship. Now, normally a Mark 48 would go right for it, but this thing is going to look for a wake, so it's going to pass through one side of the wake and the other and turn around and go, aha! Now I know what to look for. The carrier seems to be oblivious. Oh, there's the return fire. Stingray torpedo. Capabilities of the Stingray torpedo, 6 miles, so they can catch me if they get lucky. But they seem to have launched it into the wrong direction. Okay, at this point, the torpedo should start turning. It's figured out where the wake is. Hello? There you are. Hi. Yep, it's closing in. Looks like that ASW ship might be toast. Yes. Go forth and conquer. Got him. Okay, that's one. Submarines, so far successful. Torpedo against the carrier. The carrier is now turning hard to port. She's not interested in playing around with the torpedo. The torpedoes are going to find that wake, ideally. And decide, yep, that's a big wake, that's a big ship, that's a big target. This Type 22 looks to be in massive problems. She still has her radar active, so that's not been cooked yet. I don't really care about her radar. I don't have anything for the radar to detect. Torpedo has acquired. It's decided to go for the wake. They might have popped noisemakers, but that's not really going to do much. Oh, hold on. Are they going to actually connect with the aircraft carrier or not? Because it looks like it's... She's listing over to starboard very badly because of that turn. Yeah, we got her. No, we don't have her. Hold on. Turn back to port, if you will. No, they're going to miss. This is why I find it very important to have additional fuel on them. So not to shoot them at maximum range, but slightly closer. Because that way, they still have fuel to engage again. There's the wake of the carrier. Come on. Yep. Acquired. Now, I wonder if 3 torpedoes is going to be sufficient. There's 1 to kill the carrier. Propulsion's out. There's 2. Boom. And 3. Boom. That ought to at least cause massive amounts of flooding. I think this Type 22 is done for. With that much list and that much flooding, you're not going to survive. This Stingray torpedo seems to have the wrong idea. It's going for the wrong objective. So that just leaves... Yeah, the Type 21 has put Mark 40... No, the Type 21 doesn't put Mark 46 torpedoes into the water. They do! Oh, my bad. Range 8 miles. That can be a problem. That can be a problem. Now, Invincible's not going anywhere. I need to get a detection on the Type 21, but it's just stationary. And that means it's not possible to detect it on sonar. It's very quiet, apparently. As for this other one, I don't know. Yeah, the Mark 46 is just searching. Alright. At 1/3. Southwest. Come on. Yeah, this thing is dead. Type 22 eliminated. The Invincible? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. She probably won't be a threat. But it is possible that she'll survive. So in that case, we're going to have to hit her again. And that's maybe where the K458 comes in. I can still launch her missiles against the Invincible. She still has the Type 21 and the Type 46, I think, or the Type 42, which is capable of defending the place. Yeah, that one. Doing 24 knots. But this thing, I think, is not that great at defeating submarines. Unfortunately, it's a bit noisy here, so I cannot pick up anything. It's a noisemaker. That's a torpedo. Those torpedoes are only doing 25 knots. That's the Stingray. So I can easily outrun a Stingray. Just that... Actually, is that a Stingray? No, that's not a Stingray, that's a warship. That's a warship. Okay. We're going to finish off Invincible and send another couple of missiles against that surface target. So, Salvo 4. Invincible. Let's see how invincible she truly is. And then another salvo 4. Is that it? Yes, that is it. Okay. Missiles away. Fairly short range at that, 15 miles only. I think Invincible might soak up more missiles if I launch them now, but if I don't launch them, they're all going to get intercepted. So let's just finish off the Invincible. That's the objective. That is the objective. Eliminate Invincible. Any missiles that bypass Invincible might still hit the other ship, which would be great. It's a bit of a secondary objective. I still have 2 torpedoes. Let's send a torpedo after it. Might make some noise, but whatever. The 458's down to her last 3 missiles. 2 missiles. One left. Come on. I want to get out of here. Yes. All missiles away. Now, head north. Go deep. Start going ahead 1 2/3. And start running, essentially. Type 22, eliminated. We know that. The Type 42 is shooting up, I think, my missiles? Yes. I wonder how much self-defense capability the carrier still has left. Because normally the carrier at this point would be shooting back at me, but that's not what's happening. So it's entirely likely that that weapon system has been disabled, and or her radar systems are disabled. Ideally, we would also see the destruction of the Sea-Wiz. That would definitely make things easier. But I'm not sure we're going to get that quite yet. There's the Sea-Wiz. The Sea-Wiz is functional. Come on. Nope. Fly true. A hail of gunfire. But we do seem to be getting slightly closer. We're down to our last 4 missiles. Nope. I don't like where this Mark 46 is going. There's another Stingray out there. The so-called Invincible has been sunk. Today is a glorious day for the Soviet Union. So I'm assuming that's mission done. However, I still feel threatened. A lot. Go deep. This Type 42 is still going to attract the attention of this 5365. Yeah, we're definitely going to lob more missiles into that sub. Oh, sorry, into that carrier. I don't think the missiles actually got it. I think it was the sinking of the... well, the flooding of the torpedoes and all their secondary damage that caused that kill. So that was not really my doing with the missiles. But at least it should have gone and gotten them a bit more attention. Alright. We still have that Stingray over there somewhere. Full speed. Full is not 21, or is not 40 knots, but it's a start. This torpedo hopefully will sink that Type 42. And we still have one more, the Type 21. I don't think they're that big of a risk. It's a general purpose escort. Yes, it comes with Mark 46 torpedoes, but that's about it. Beyond that, it doesn't have anything. It does have a helicopter, though, a Sea Sprite. You're already running away at 10 knots. I want you to run away at full speed. So 20 knots out. This thing is not exactly in a great path towards that ship. I can only hope it'll catch it, but that ship's moving at very decent speed, 25 knots. It might run away just fine. Speaking of running away just fine. Got what I came here to do, at least the carrier. Now I need to make good on my escape. And then meanwhile, close to the surface, this 5365K Wakehomer is getting awful close to that Type 42. And Type 42 is basically doing donuts. They're just circling. Which constantly gives me another wake to home in on. I'm not sure if that was a noisemaker, but we're getting very close. Yeah, that was a noisemaker. That was a torpedo, actually. That was a torpedo. I think they're just guessing. Because at this point, they're doing so much speed and making so much noise that it's very unlikely they will actually be able to detect me. Yet. That's HMS Birmingham. I'm running away 20 knots. I'm running away 20 knots. I want to see if that thing goes down. And meanwhile, we're going to maintain our high speed. I can go faster, I guess. But flank puts me at 41, which makes me extremely noisy. So let's not do that. And a little later, we hear the breaking up of another ship. That is another one of the escorts eliminated. At this point, we're pretty much in the clear. If it wasn't for the fact that there's still one Stingray fairly close to the 493. The Stingray, however, at good speed, can never catch me. Because I'm simply too fast. The question is this thing gonna just zigzag or not? Because it just seemed to be doing circles. And at present is unable to find me. I think it has still an amazing... Ooh, boy. That's an amazingly large search cone. I am too deep for this thing to detect, right? 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 Because I'm not at the surface. But this thing seems to be determined to try and catch me. It's doing 50 knots now. But it's doing 50 knots like it's acquired something on the surface. It's at 19 feet, 18 feet, 7. It's trying to go shallower. I'm not sure what this torpedo is doing. But it's not going to catch me. Because I've pretty much bottomed out. Oh, boom. I guess it went to its terminal phase and eventually detonated. This is the last surviving escort. It is within torpedo range. But at this point, with probability of helicopters and aircraft like the P3 still up there, I'm not that interested in trying to sink it. So, with that in mind, I'm going to end the mission here. Because I have won. That's what the game said. We have destroyed the Invincible, the Odysseus, the Birmingham, and with the Invincible sinking, we eliminated 12 Sea Harriers, a couple of Sea Kings, some Lynxes, also, of course, on the Type 22 and the 42. We have no damage to any of the submarines, and that's a victory. So, on to the third mission. I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this scenarios, this campaign chain, so I'm looking forward to playing the next one. I hope you guys will join me for that tomorrow. Thank you for watching this one. I'll see you soon for more. Look at her go. We've intercepted a bunch of missiles so far. Yeah, that's pretty much all the missiles there gone. Yeah, so now we have to worry about the ones in the north. Suez. Oh, there's one coming in close. No! Rogov took a hit. And that's possibly the end of her.